Welcome to the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show. This talk show is presented each week by host Alina and features guests from our Caribbean islands right here on this channel. As we discuss family finances, proverbial principles, child guidance, and academics at home, guests join in weekly to have conversations that give helpful tips about how to be a better parent. Like, subscribe, follow, and share as you tune in each week for new episodes of the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show. Hi, good day, and welcome once again to the Caribbean Parenting Digital Show. And as always, I am Alina Lewis, and I am excited to be your host. And oh, what a season it has been. Today marks the last of our live streams of season 1 of the Caribbean Parenting Digital. And we're so very grateful and appreciative for all of those who join us on this journey of conversations where we would have met every week to discuss useful things that really affect parents and parenting, with the hope that all of these discussions are working together to make you a better parent each day. And continuing on, we have joining us once again is Andrea Gopaul, as she joins in to chat about the holistic development of children and teens. Because, of course, as we know, especially in these COVID times, so many parents are concerned about how their children and teens are developing, whether they're spending too much time online, offline, on the phone, in the room, outdoors. And so it definitely is something to think about. And, you know, even now, before I bring Andrea in, I want to encourage those of you who are going to be tuning in live. Remember, you can ask questions. Remember, start a watch party now. Invite your friends, tag your friends, and share this video. Whether you are viewing on Facebook, YouTube, or other social media platform, we want to be able to hear from you and take your questions as we discuss the holistic development of a child. So good evening to Andrea. Hi. Thanks so much for coming in once again.
Happy to be here. Happy to have made this journey, this first season with you.
Yes.
It was my privilege. It was an amazing journey for me as well.
Yes, and I appreciate you so much for being here month after month, joining in on the conversation. And today's conversation, Andrea, of course, focuses on the holistic development of a child, especially because it is a heightened conversation in these COVID recovery days, because now more than before, children are home so much often in times gone by. parents really would have given a lot of the work to schools to make sure to have kids exposed, involved, and really moving about and getting these touch bases on different topics, different areas of life. But now in Trinidad and Tobago, since March to now, our kids are still home. There are still many restrictions, many, even in ways they could go out. And so the holistic development of a child becomes something we recognize that parents need to be intentional concerning. So even as we jump into this conversation, Andrea, what do you think is most important for parents to understand about what it means to have well-rounded children? Because when we have a well-rounded children, that's where we get to settle into that understanding that says, this is how I know my child is developing holistically. So what parents should understand, I'm asking, about having well-rounded children?
Well, generally, when we think about children and development, people generally think about schooling. But schooling is not the only part, that is their academic development. So if we're well-rounded, we're talking about holistic development, which would include like the mind. The mind area is like socio-emotional and physical stuff, which would mean that our children need to learn how to develop relationships with others, empathy, learn problem solving skills, learn to be open to new experiences, and pro-social behaviors. So that would cover the mind part of it. We are also the mind and emotions. That would be intellectual and psychological. We also, our other main part of us is our body. So that would deal with physical health and outdoor activities, development of fine and gross motor skills. This would be through things like sports and other activities like arts and stuff. And also I would include in this area about the body, knowing about the body in terms of puberty and sex education. There is a subject at school that covers some of the holistic development. It's called HFLE, or Health and Family Life Education. And third, but not least, is the spiritual part of us. That is the part of us that has to do with our conscience, that sense of right and wrong, justice, moral reasoning. The spiritual part of us is that part that asks the existential questions, like, who am I? Why am I here? What is the meaning of life? That would fall under the area sometimes of like religion and peace and all of that. That is dealing with the spiritual side. So we have to develop as holistic beings because we are not only one part. Any questions so far? I wanted to just touch on something.
Yeah. So really, what we're saying is that when we start talking about the holistic development of our kids, we're talking about their physical development, emotional, psychological development. You mentioned sexual awareness and spiritual development. Is it fair to say that it's those five
Yes.
that parents should be mindful of? So when I'm thinking, is my child being developed holistically, I'm looking at, in a nutshell, these five areas.
Mm-hmm. So the Ministry of Education, in their vision, it actually has the words to be a pace setter in the holistic development of individuals through education. So even the Ministry of Education recognizes that the child needs to be developed not just intellectually, but holistically. What I just wanted to throw into the mix was a very popular theory by Howard Gardner called multiple intelligences. So that basically says that human beings have different forms of intelligence.
Yes.
Long ago, we would just think if a child was doing well in school, they were intelligent. If they were doing well in math or language skills. We didn't think about the child who had the kinesthetic intelligence, that intelligence with their body. For instance, my favorite example to deal with that is Michael Jackson. He could move that body, tiny little parts, big movements. Athletes, they have that form of intelligence, that natural sense of balance. Then you have naturalistic intelligence, where there are people who have deep appreciation for nature, the environment, animals. I met a young boy from up in Matlot in the country, and he looks after birds and animals in his school. And if a pet dies, that child is so saddened by it. Like on TV, we would hear about horse whisperers and dog whisperers. So people who have that connection with nature.
Yeah.
Then we'd have those who have musical intelligence. From a baby, they would just be knocking your pots and pans. And in Trinidad, we would say, "Oh gosh, stop that whole noise, man!" But we don't have. Some of us, the older heads, don't have the sense to recognize that is musical intelligence that is shining. Then we have those who have the spatial intelligence. That would be those who have the artistic eye. They could walk into a room, the HGTV people, and they could see, oh, wouldn't hair look lovely in that tile? And, oh, if I move that wall back, or with artwork and stage set designing and all those things where you just have to use your mind to move things around and colors and stuff. And then we have interpersonal intelligence. I would think you score very high on that. That would be things like, having a very good public relation, relating with others in that personal way. People have good customer service. And then you'd have people a little more like me who would have what you call intrapersonal intelligence. People who are skilled in handling emotions of their own, detecting emotions in others, and things like that. So there are so many different forms of intelligence, and basically we want to get our child to have a touch of as many as possible in the mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, and I even want to compliment what you're saying, Andrea, just to remind the parents that no one form of intelligence, or representation rather, of intelligence is a greater value or is more important. But really, as we go through life and we steer kids through life, what we really want to do, as you're saying, expose them, give them opportunities to develop these, so that it's not just about putting a higher emphasis on one and saying the rest is important. Just focus on this alone. No, we when we start talking about well-rounded children, it means, as you have rightly said, putting a touch. So then, of course, even as we continue, the big question is how. We've talked about the physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, sexual awareness, those forms of development as making up holistic. We've talked about types of intelligences as making up that holistic development. So the question now is how? How can parents support the holistic development of children? Of course, we're looking at, let's say, the primary age child, infant to standard 5. How can parents support them within that age group?
I will get to that. Let me just make one statement I found.
Sure.
It is about integration and synergy. What that means is that as we help our children develop in each area, it helps in other areas. And I saw this equation, which basically is about synergy. 1 + 1 = 3, not 2. In other words, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And I'll begin this section with an example. Last week, a parent contacted me to do a recommendation for his son. The boy is a professional cyclist, and due to his involvement in sport, I was able to put in that recommendation some of the qualities that he would have gotten from sport, like teamwork, like persistence, um, different things. The sport caused him to travel internationally and regionally. So you understand that each area of development helps the other. So let me address the question: how can parents support children becoming well-rounded? It begins with a mindset. We need to encourage that openness to new experiences. We can begin with small children. We could ask them open-ended questions that encourage them to think, questions that would help us identify their interests and passion. Even small children have a little passion. I remember my eldest son, he was just around less than a year old when we were living in Tobago, and we were in the back of this taxi, and his stroller was folded up and in the back with us, and his little hands touched the wheel and it began to spin. And he did it again and he did it again. There was that curiosity for scientific things. So it shows in what they do. We need to provide learning opportunities for our children. Learning opportunities could be in many ways. It could be through play dates. It could be through field trips. It could be, trips to the zoo, whatever. All of that is in their development. They're learning about nature. They're learning about going out and interacting with others on the trip. So even in our own homes, we could create an engaging and inviting environment that, some parents of toddlers, they would put up charts with the ABCs and different things that is encouraging that learning environment. Some of them would have toys that children could touch and figure out, like blocks and puzzles, that engaging environment that is causing them to want to use their little brains. And we must not push them too much. We must allow them to learn at their own pace and in their own way. Some people, if you give two different children the same toy, they would play with it in a different way.
That's right.
One would break it apart to see what makes it work, and one would just, play with it and see how it runs. They are different. They need to figure it out. Their minds work in different ways, and children work at different rates. Yeah. Another tip to help us, we must encourage a particular mindset. The mindset that we ought to encourage is for them to be outgoing, for them to step out of the comfort zone. I have met friends of my kids who all they do for years is go to school, come home, do their homework, and play game. That is it. Games, computer games. Don't go, have no desire to go to the beach, to go to the mall, to go to a friend's birthday party, anything. So parents, actually, children can become addicted to the media, and we need to help them, encourage them to be outgoing and step out of the comfort zone. That same child, they had a lot of firsts with me. First time they ever went on a camping trip. First time, they ever went to a water park, different things, because the child just had no interest, and maybe the parent wasn't, aware that sometimes you have to give them a little push, encourage them to step out of the comfort zone. We need to encourage that curiosity. And even if that curiosity means they fail, they fall off their bike, they get dirty. Once my son, um, he was like primary school age and went to the pitch lake with some friends, and he came back with his hands and his clothes with the liquid pitch on it. And the people who he went walking with thought, oh my gosh, your mom is going to give it to you. And when I saw him, I said, son, what were you trying to do? And he said he wanted to see something about the pitch. Now, how could I chastise that child? That was that curiosity. Sometimes it means getting dirty. And when we want to encourage our children, we could praise them, show approval, always with children, with people, whatever behavior we want to encourage, we praise it.
Yes.
So, right? So this is what we need to do. Show approval when they do the good stuff. And another thing that encourages children's mind to open up a lot is a simple thing like reading. For small children, as we're talking about now, bedtime stories is a nice way to let their imagination, that intellectual part of them, that creative part of them, come alive through the bedtime stories, reading to them, providing fun books for them to read, like Diary of a Wimpy Kid and fun stuff that they will want to read. And as I close this section, I would say, don't push too hard.
Yeah.
Push not too hard. I remember one time we took a friend of my boys, again, another boy, to the ziplining place. And well, my little son is an adventurer, extrovert, and he went as many times as my pocket could afford.
Right.
And his little friend who we took, he would not go. He was so scared. And the other mommy and I decided, okay, we're not going to frighten him. If he really can't make, he was shivering, we're not going to force him. But another time, the boy went back with his dad. And his dad forced him. I guess it was the macho thing. He's thinking he's a boy and he shouldn't be scared. And that child was terrified. Sometimes we can actually traumatize them.
Right.
There are some people, they want to teach their kids to swim and they just push them in the pool or in the water.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes we can traumatize them and it will scare them from wanting to try, and it would break the trust between us and them.
Yes.
If they trust us, they will be more willing to try things that we recommend.
So what you're saying, Andrea, is that when we consider holistic development among children, we want to first start by encouraging curiosity, giving them the opportunity to be curious, and the manipulatives, the things, the blocks, the items to help them be curious. And we want to definitely look at the mindset in terms of how we are raising them, what we encourage them to do, how we encourage them to think, and of course, don't traumatize them by forcing them, but work with their own pace of development. Yes.
Encourage them gently, yes.
Yes. And so even when we shift our focus to teens and we talk about parents supporting holistic development of teens, this becomes sometimes a bit of a tickle, because once they get into teen mode, a lot of times teens have a habit of regressing. A lot of parents complain that their teens are regressing. They're always in their room, they're with their friends, they're never around. They don't know how to communicate with them anymore. The lingo is different. So even as we consider that, what can parents do then to support the holistic development among teens?
Well, what I did with my boys, I would allow them to invite their friends. There was a period of time where little kids always excited to go to the beach, but then as they were turning into teens, oh, mommy, we don't want to go with you all. Oh, no, we don't want to go with you all. But when we invited their friends, so why don't you let your friend come and spend the weekend? Or you bring one friend and your brother brings one friend. You would see how quickly, yes, it becomes fun again because they don't want to be with us. And parents, do not feel offended when your child is letting go of you and latching on to friends. That is a normal stage of development in the teen years. Okay, so invite a friend. My dad used to allow us to invite a friend when we went on camping trips because it made it more fun. We don't want to talk with, older people. So that is one thing. Um, the parents can create opportunity for experiential learning. For instance, at school, there would be opportunity for field trips. Please, by all means, allow them. They will be going to see things, whether it's educational things, to do with your geography or to do with your science or whatever it is. The field trips are important. The field trips to see a play is also very important. Some parents think if it is something very scientific, you're going to rehearse and stuff, okay, fine. But if you're going to see a play, that is not so important. I actually used to take my boys out of school and some of their friends on particular days, like during the Sandfest and all that, to take them to the bowl to see a play.
Yeah.
So that they would have that appreciation, their little eyes would shine so brightly, when you see the special effects. And so they had those experiences. All of that is part helping them to appreciate art and culture.
Yeah, and if you would allow me, Andrea, just to be able to stick in for a minute, um, in addition to experiencing and appreciating art and culture, because I'm a lover of plays, and I go to certain ones every
Oh,
year,
we must go
and what
sometime.
I do at what was that? Sorry.
I say we must go sometime.
Yeah, and after COVID, yeah. But one of the things that I do every
But
year is I sponsor, because I love. I'm just putting it out there. I love the Oratory Foundation and the work that they
oh
do.
yes.
And every year, without question, I go to the Oratory Foundation's play. And what I do is I always buy extra tickets, and I choose a family at my school, and I say, hey, would you like to take the kids out? I'm going to give you the tickets. And I would sponsor them. And you know what? A lot of times it's the first time the entire family is going out together. So even for the kids, it's because we're talking about holistic development. It is a strange experience to be out with mommy and daddy, and everybody get dressed up and look a little snazzy, and they go out. And another thing that I found interesting since I've started doing this is I hear the comment, I didn't know I could feel that, meaning that they look at the play and they get so deep into the emotion of what is happening. Or even, for example, IBIS TNT performers led by Shirma Ford, they do an awesome job. They do their dance productions every year. And every year, sorry, I get tickets, and I bring the teachers at the school out, those who want to come. And it's always such an emotional experience. And what I love about that, even as you talk about it, is that beyond just the appreciation of art, what I have learned from these parents and others that I invite is that they're able to tap into their emotional spaces. They get exposed to situations that they just weren't cognizant of because it's not within their traditional environment. And therein is where the holistic development lies, that sometimes you could really overlook. So yeah, you touched a
Yes.
little nerve there with me
So
on the going
yes.
out.
And I did actually attend a play with a friend 2 weeks ago, a virtual play
Okay,
by one of the South groups. Yeah,
right.
so Yeah, we could still go out virtually.
Yeah.
So for teenagers, another thing that they would be interested in is like summer jobs.
Mhm.
They're going to feel big. They're going to learn about the working environment. They're going to have something to put on their resume. They, it's going to cause them to use a whole set of different skills. Use their alarm clock to wake up, get ready, travel, or, interact with other people, have a sense of responsibility. So a simple thing like a little summer job is good.
Yeah.
Another experiential learning that teenagers would like is sports. Any type of sport, it could be from running, it could be ballet, it could be anything that they like. Sports is good because they learn sportsmanship, discipline, teamwork, cooperation, a whole lot of other skills come their way. Psychomotor development of, you know, fine motor skills, large motor skills. Yes. Um, Another experiential learning that teenagers might enjoy is like being part of clubs and NGOs. Sometimes I am at some schools and they are involved with like the Rotary or the 4-H club or different clubs. The one that does the business, um, I forgot it. It does business education. My younger son was involved in that, and they usually have a big soiree dinner up at the Hyatt and all that. Um, so they can get involved in things like this because you see, of course, some of those experiences they would love. Learning how to start a business, dressing up and going out to dinner as part of the prize giving. That is something that teenagers will love. The teenagers are all different. Some enjoy responsibility, just like some adults. Some enjoy responsibility. So you may want to encourage them. Why don't you, you know, be a school prefect or be part of your student council? So this is leadership skills being
Yes.
developed. This is a miniature government. That is what
Yeah.
the student council is. It is students having a say in how to run their environment. For some students, for those who may later become advocates, politicians, you know, things like competitions in school, debating, and all of that, these opportunities are things that would help them develop. And another one I'm thinking of is volunteering. So, near the end of secondary school, when you're getting into Form 6, getting ready to apply to university or tertiary education, they want to know, apart from your academics, what were you involved in? What Why should we give you this space and there are other young people whose grades might be better than yours or the same as yours? So volunteerism is also a place where children can learn to give back to humanity. They will
Yeah.
learn charity. They will learn working with others, right? So, and it will also look very good on their resume and their application for college,
Yeah. Now, one of the things,
especially the foreign
sorry.
ones. Yes, sorry, it's especially the foreign ones.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Great. Now, one of the things I did want to talk to you about, but you sort of dealt with it already as you went along, was the organizations that support the holistic development of children and teens. But, I recognize that in your examples, you mentioned, I think, Rotary Club, sports clubs, and these types of organizations. But is there any other you wanted to make mention of that parents should be aware of as it
Yes,
pertains
well,
to
for
holistic development?
teenagers, some of them who have that different form of intelligence, people who like to learn through doing, or if you want to pick up an additional skill, in some schools, especially in the government secondary schools, you have the ability to take up a CVQ subject, Caribbean Vocational
Yes.
Qualification. And it's
Yes.
usually in some area that you can actually get right out into a job. It could be cooking, agriculture, woodwork, whatever. So, right in school, you can have that opportunity. So, some encourage your child. It's something different. It may be a little, deviation from all that,
Yes.
heavy stuff. Have some fun, go outside, get dirty, feed the cows or whatever.
Yeah.
Another organization where young people can learn more skills when they finish school, or sometimes when they're still in school, but it's usually intended for after, is White Up. You learn
Right.
a lot of vocational skills, from barbering, cosmetology, office stuff, computer. And internationally, I saw that, I don't know if it is YTEP who partnered with Coursera.
Coursera. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so there's free training. I think you have
Yes.
to be 18 or something to
Yeah.
access it for older teens. And
Yes.
that is going to be great on your resume. Uh, so, what what parents can do also to support the development is join the PTA and become part of the decision making process in your child's school that will do things.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So Andrea, we do have a couple questions that we want to be able to jump into. And one of the first questions asks, it's from Sharon, and Sharon says, I appreciate your forum. Looking for some specific tips during this COVID period, seeing that activities like swimming and outdoor clubs have been put on hold for 9 months now.
Hmm. That definitely needs some brainstorming. It would depend on the personality of your child. Um, there would be your introverted ones who would prefer things like reading, board games, like Scrabble, family time. I think one of the most important things during this COVID experience is the family time that we can actually spend. They're stuck at home with us, so we have to try and make it fun. It can even be things like teaching them to cook with you, or let them learn to follow a recipe or something like that. So those are some suggestions for you. Um, they can look at videos. For those, I know teenagers, my boys, by the time they hit a certain teenage, 16 and up, they want to go to the gym. If you won't allow them to go to the gym, because I think gyms can accommodate a certain number, there are videos that they can look at and actually do some of the workouts at home, work along with it. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I would just
Hiking
add,
is
sorry,
one of
go
those.
ahead, Andrea.
Hiking is one of those things that is still allowed. Hiking.
Yeah.
And
One of the things I want to emphasize on too, Andrea, to complement what you're saying, is that parents should be mindful not to underestimate the value of at home routines. And I'll give a really simple example. When I was, I think, 18, I moved out from home. I was living on my own, and when I moved, I discovered that I knew how to cook, I knew how to clean, I knew how to wash. I knew how to putty a wall, because a nail broke out from where a picture was hanging, and I knew go to the hardware and buy a putty, and you sand it down and do your little touch up. And I at 18 I could have lived fully functional on my own. And the reason for that is not so much that my parents were intentional to say, come, let me teach you, but just because I was around. I didn't cook. I really did not cook while I was living at home, but because I was around in the kitchen and I saw what my mother did, I pulled it back from memory. I could have functioned because I may have been outside when my dad was doing certain things. In my mind, I'm like, oh, I think that's what my dad would have done. And I go to the hardware and I figured it out. And so just being around, and I think it's great that in today's society we have so many options for things we could send our children to do. But I just really want to encourage parents to remember that, especially during COVID, when some of those options may not be available, don't underestimate the value of the at home time and the simple points of responsibility that our children can learn, like taking care of the making up of the beds, or helping prepare a meal that you could do together, or helping clean up the toys for the younger siblings. Because even as we think about holistic development, there is much value that we can bring even in those. So I just really wanted to put that in complement to what you were saying there, Andrea.
Yes. And another thing that young people can do at home, younger ones, primary school age or teens, um, try learning another language or a musical instrument. Those are some things that will challenge you, that would, you're going to learn a new skill,
Yes.
develop a new hobby. Yes. So those are a couple of the suggestions that I have.
Okay, so we want to go on to our next question now that says, my child does not live with me. How can I support my child's development when parenting from a distance?
For that, I would say that the both parents need to have good communication, and they have to do what is called co-parenting. Co-parenting is when the child does not live with you or lives with you part of the time, but you are a parent with rights, and you should be able to discuss with the other parent things like um, discipline, activities that relates to the child. And also, the child also can have some input. I think this is one of the things that we forget. Yesterday, I was reviewing for upcoming Universal Children's Day and their rights. And one of the things that I recall is that children need to have a say in what concerns them. Yes, their voice. So the
Yes.
parents need to work on co-parenting. I've actually sat in a family courtroom observing proceedings where the judge actually said to the parties, you guys need to learn to work together. Put aside whatever differences, bitterness you may have, and always seek the best interest of the child.
Yeah. And our last question, Andrea says, I'm afraid of my teen getting a Christmas vacation job because of the type of negative exposure they might have among adults. Any advice?
Hmm. Yes, that is a fair. Well, probably what you can do is maybe set some no places. Definitely, maybe not at a casino, not at a bar. Make some suggestions. Okay, fine. Choose one of the places at C3 or at South Park. Places that have few other employees, you know, that is, yeah, that you can monitor.
Yeah, I understand. So that way there are some boundaries and some
Yes,
regulations
it's
that the
okay.
child could follow.
You can get a job, but let's talk about it when you find some places. But definitely, some places would be out of bounds for you, because I
Understood.
know some working environments there would be a lot of cursing and
Yes.
things like that,
Yeah.
alcohol drinking. Yeah.
Definitely. So even as we wrap up this convo, Andrea, what final thoughts would you like to share with parents regarding holistic development of their children and the teens?
I would just like to remind them what we said earlier, encourage that curiosity, praise them, and don't push them too hard.
Yeah. So, Andrea, as always, thank you so much for being with us here on the Caribbean Parenting Series. And mummies, daddies, aunties, uncles, as always, we thank you for tuning in. You've been with us for all of season one. And of course, even as we bring it to a close, we have some specials for you that you can look out for. If you have not liked or subscribed to the Caribbean Parenting channel, please take a moment, make sure you subscribe. Your support really helps us, and it allows you to get those notifications once we release new videos. Now, in terms of the specials that we have coming, as we know, Friday is Universal Children's Day, and we're having 3 special feature conversations that looks at the rights of a child. And it's really going to be some great conversations that we all, the adults, the aunties and uncles as well, can benefit from as we all work together to make sure we're giving our children the best possible support that we can. And also, we want to remind you that on Saturday at 5 p.m., we have the CPDS Connect, which is a free parent guidance session. Remember, that session is not live streamed, so you should go to the events section of the page so that way you can get the link to get registered. That is the Connect, the CPDS Connect, which is coming this Saturday. It's the last for the year, this Saturday at 5 p.m. No live stream, so you do have to get registered. And of course, this Sunday, we have a special on self-care for parents. So we have a packed weekend coming up for your mummies and daddies. We trust that season one has been awesome for you guys. And as always, my name is Alina. I thank you for having joined us. And until the next time, which is going to be on Friday, take care and have a good one.